The House of Flame and Shadow. In this video, I'm going to discuss the right-hand path and the left-hand path, and a little bit exploring into the planets here, which I have said are archons. And I would say that they are interstellar parasites. In my last video, I showed a book by Velikovsky, Worlds in Collision, and it gave some information from astronomers from various cultures that Venus, the snake-tailed wandering fireball, entered this solar system very recently, and she may have changed what was happening within the realm. And so there are enough references and resources from various astronomers and also astrologers and writings in text to show that Venus is a newcomer. And so we're going to associate in this video Venus with Lucifer. And we're going to do that because, in my understanding, Venus as morning star is definitely called Lucifer. In the Sumerian text, she was the battle goddess who was warring with the Anunnaki. But I would say that she is also an interstellar parasite, and that this whole Orion War system that we're in, we basically have these gods or deities fighting, and we're their food. And I have said that several times, that it doesn't matter to me whether it's Anunnaki, Draconian, Greys, interstellar parasites that show up as archons, we are their food. So from the left-hand path perspective, that is acceptable. So it is the tantric path, and I've explored that through tantric yoga and tantric Buddhism, and the left-hand path, I have read many different books on that, so it is not as if I am not aware of the left-hand path. The idea with the left-hand path is it's very personal and private, and you allow one of these gods to parasitically possess you so that they are experiencing what you are experiencing here in this realm. Now, my first understanding of this was a very long time ago when I was a child, and I was walking myself to various religious institutions and riding my bike as a child because my parents did not do that. And I was observing this whole idea, like in the Christian paradigm, which is what I would call the right-hand path, you also have to let the God possess you, and you have to ask this Christ figure into your heart. On the left-hand path, you have to ask this other figure, which is Venus or Lucifer, to be your guide. To me, it's the same thing. This is why I've said the Christ and Lucifer are the same being. It's the duality template within this play that you almost like have to be parasitically controlled by these gods. Now, I reject all of that. On the left-hand path, which has been discussed recently by people that are my clients and my friends, there are proponents of this character Lucifer as stealing the rebel spark. So let's review that again. What we know from the electric universe and what we know from mythology is that there were different kinds of interstellar activities, the collision of Marduk and Tiamat. We also know that Aphrodite or Venus was from the castration of Uranus, and we also understand that Athena came up out of the head of Jupiter or Zeus. Okay, and Jupiter and Uranus are highly electrical, combustible planets, so you can almost see how this version that Immanuel Velikovsky speaks about in his World in Collision book is that this thing was literally a comet that was born out of these other planets. So that's how this idea of Lucifer stealing the spark came about. Lucifer is also associated with Prometheus, and in that mythology we have this idea that here is some character who realizes the gods are all cruel immortals and steals the fire to give to humanity. But I want you to know that this is still an interstellar game that they are playing to tell us the story that they somehow did it for us, where in fact, we're already that. You are that. Thou art that. When my child was born, I didn't direct her to the right-hand path or the left-hand path. As soon as she was born, I said, Tat Vam Asi, thou art that. You don't have to become a son. You don't have to become anything, people. You already are that. So to me, this is a complete trickster template. So if Venus, Lucifer, is this comet who stole the spark, she didn't steal it from me. All right? This is the whole thing, is like, Christ also didn't die for me. This is the same being. Do you understand where we are? Where there all these religious beliefs and isms are going to set you up to let these gods possess you. And I do understand that this character, Lucifer, is also enjoying the fact that we may become AI, and that she thinks that's great because she'll just take over your AI body for you. Because as Archaics, Jason says, his idea, and I know his chart, and I've reviewed his chart also, his idea that this whole demiurge thing is somehow to qualify you to become a god. You already are. Thou art that. And so to me, you know, the whole Phoenix grid and all this baloney about resetting us again and again, because it's for our own good to go through this chaos and then reorganize and see how brilliant we are to create another civilization. Folks, you are in a system that has interstellar parasites. And the reason that I am calling this video The House of Flame and Shadow is because I am on the third book by Sarah J. Maas. And, you know, I don't even recommend that you read all of these books because I don't think you will really understand what she's saying. But a fiction writer is a Gnostic, okay? They're in this like Gnostic questioning, who are these characters? What are these players? And she explains very well how these interstellar parasites came in and set themselves up as these seven gods. And one of them is missing, Sirius, the black sun, because Sirius's throne is empty and that's the black sun. And so from the Freemason perspective, you know, Lucifer is the gold, and we have to go through all of these trials and suffering and parasitic possession by these creatures, which are interstellar parasites, to somehow realize our gold. Well, what if you just realize your gold? This is the thing. It's like, you don't need to let these gods possess you. You don't need to be on the left-hand path, and you don't need to be on the right-hand path. So this book by Sarah J. Maas has some really good insights to Rigel, to Pollux, to all of these fixed stars, which I have spoken about too, and she does a great job. I don't know how she knows who Rigel is, but Rigel is the most malevolent star in the Orion stars, and we are in an Orion war. So Rigel is one of the Asterai, or what's called Archons, that is this interstellar parasite taking the light from you when you are born, and then also taking your second light when you die. So there's this whole conversation in this book of the House of Flame and Shadow and the two books before it. And again, these are long books. You know that I read like crazy, but it's because that's what I do. I want to hear these fiction writers' gnosis. They are tapping into questions. And I happen to know that Sarah J. Maas uses three major like folk tales in her explanation of what happened to the Fae and the humans, and how these interstellar parasites came in and basically pitted all these groups, the humans and the Fae and the shifters and all these different groups, against each other, so that we are here suffering and they're collecting our starlight. They're collecting it when we're born, and they're collecting it when we die. and they are literally parasites. So, I mean, people have told me, you know, I've done an interview with John on the Tantric Buddhist path when we spoke about the spider beings. And from that tantric or left-hand perspective, those demons or deities become your protector. Like they become part of your, I guess, demonic deal here. And I'm just not having that. So Sarah J. Maas does a fabulous job in her way of explaining all of these characters and what happened on Mount Hermon and the fallen angels, and how the fallen angels are rebelling against the archangels, and the archangels are selling out to the Asterai, or these interstellar parasites here that I call the archons. So this is massive, folks, that Sarah J. Maas has done this. And she also explains that they made this synthetic stuff that gets in the body and it summons parasites and demons. And so I was like, wow, she wrote this a long time ago. So she's either part of the Illuminati or she's receiving direct gnosis. And I would say, you know, just reading it, she's receiving direct gnosis, just like I do. And in my last video, when I was speaking about the worlds in collision and the seasonal depictions and the magic that we have and who we actually are, she also says that when we stop doing these sacrifices, like these bog bodies and all this horrible ritual sacrifice, we stop tithing these demonic interstellar parasites, and so they poisoned our water. They poisoned our water. And that is exactly what the Worlds in Collision book says, is that twice Venus came and she scorched the earth and put all kinds of interstellar parasites into the water so that we die young and we don't live to be 1,000 years old like we should, because those interstellar parasites make us recycle. We have very short lives. We're very sickly. We're not the incredible beings that we are. So in that one video that I said, you know, water, water everywhere and not a drop to drink, that's already happening. If you don't know that that's already happening and that all of the water is contaminated, you're also not getting it. Like we in this system, and I think someone even commented with their gnosis on my last video, should not be having all these parasites, these GMO mosquitoes, these weird ticks. These things are created in labs, but not only that, I think that they are assisted by people who have a strong Venus. And I'm going to get into that next. So like the galactic shaman astrologers had to study a certain chart, and we did a 8th house discussion about this chart. And what I'd love to do, actually, if anyone could even read astrology like I do from the Hellenistic perspective of planetary condition, you would look at this chart and go, wow, this person's got to be like a star seed. This person's got to be so illuminated. They have 4 planets that are domicile Lord. Wow, the sun is in the 9th house of God and higher learning. This must be a high priest. Wow, he has Vesta conjunct Saturn as a domicile Lord in his 4th house of home and family. He must be a high priest. Wow, he has Venus as the ruler of his ascendant, found in Taurus as a domicile Lord. He must be so loving. And then they find out that that chart is Jeffrey Dahmer's chart. Let that sit with you for a moment. This is very important. This is the part that, to me, an astrologer could not be on the left-hand path or the right-hand path if you're really an astrologer, because then you would be able to see, like I see. Take a deep breath, okay? Because I'm going to show you this person's chart. And if you're not a skilled astrologer, you will have no idea what I'm talking about. So let's make a comparison. First of all, Western or modern astrology and Vedic astrology does not do planetary conditions, so they won't know what I'm talking about. But the planets have more power and can bring about their purpose in certain signs and in certain kind of geometries in the chart. So in certain signs, the planet Venus is very strong. She's very strong in Libra and in Taurus. Mercury is very strong in Gemini and in Virgo. Saturn is very strong in Capricorn and Aquarius. Mars is very strong in Aries and Scorpio, and so forth. So that's called planetary condition. In my chart, all of my planets are in poor condition. I don't have one exaltation. I don't have one domicile lord. And yet I have the most amazing star Merkaba I have ever drawn. So I am, when I say I am Ophiuchus, the gate of the gods, like I am literally a walking star Merkaba. And so I don't need, and I've said this in videos, like I don't need assistance from any of these planetary gods. I don't need them to be a domicile lord. I don't need them to be in good condition. And there's also what's called by hemisphere and sect, evening star or morning star. My Venus has 3 strikes against her. Okay, so she's like, and she's in Sagittarius, so she's very truthful. So it's like making Lucifer tell the truth. Because if there's anything I know about Venus, is that she is a massive trickster, just like Mercury or Hermes. And I can see it in charts. This is how I figured this out, folks, was from the astrology, is that the most absolutely demonic people have all domicile lord planets, like Jeffrey Dahmer. Are you getting where we are? Do you understand? And not only that, but he has the asteroid Mercury, the asteroid Lucifer conjunct his Mercury as a domicile lord in that 9th house of God. Because the mythology, again, of this place, this bullshit stuff that we have been told, is that somehow Lucifer has fallen so far into the abomination, into the abyss, that then God can experience herself through this abomination and abyss and cannibalism and horror that goes on here. But you know, I've been an astrologer and a counseling professional for a very long time. I did my master's degree and my internship at the Department of Social Services in the women's, women in politics type of, I was pushed into a certain avenue since I was a child to become a world leader, like a politician. They thought I would be president, actually. And I was pushed a certain direction. So I worked in the Department of Children and Families for my internship in the drugged children who came through their mother's womb drug addicted. So it was a very hard job of me trying to figure out how to help those children. And I went right from there into a Head Start program as the social worker for the Head Start program. Again, really wondering, how can we abuse these children? How is it all these drug addicted mothers get drug addicted? Are they being handed certain candies in certain locations like what is going on now? How is it that this system can even function? And so then my bigger thing, after I don't know how many years, I guess 40 years now of being a counselor, I'm going, how much like suffering does God need to experience to really experience herself? That's how it is for me. And I've had to take a real break recently because like my emotional reserves of hearing the amount of suffering and crisis that people are going through, I'm like falling over, folks. Please stop sending me private emails and your books to read and chapter 1 and chapter 2. Like, do you think I don't know what's going on here? I don't have any more time to take on your opinion or your suffering. And that is why I'm getting really selective on who I take, and I will only take sovereign beings. And I have them from both sides, like people who feel like they're a failure because Christianity failed. There's no way it's going to succeed. This is an inverse realm. We're in a demiurge construct. You think Christianity is ever going to get you out of here? or the left-hand path, like, holy crap. But within the system, yes, you can become a demigod within the system. And then you would be a cruel immortal also. Like, allowing people to suffer so that God can know herself? Come on, people. Get off of all these paths. All right? And I did tell, we were talking in the Bog group about like all this sacrifice stuff. Like, Venus requires these sacrificial whatevers, and so does Mars. And Mars is the like patron deity of Rome. And Mars also came in and was like moving about and fighting with Venus in the sky. These things that are in the sky are plasma beings. Okay, that's what they are. They're parasites and they fight. We're actually in this kind of weird war construct. So Mars was always Rome's way, so that they wanted to conquer through like Catholicism, through, whatever nation state baloney of communism, socialism, capitalism. Mars is about conquest through the isms, like, we will be the empire. The empire strikes back. And to me, that's the right-hand path. It's no better than the left-hand path. And then there's the Saturnian sacrifices, because they want to control the money and the structures. And so then, yes, we have people who will be reborn again and again with Saturn as a domicile lord. Very strong Saturn. Yes, we'll have people born again and again with Venus as a domicile lord. Or Mercury, who's an ultimate Hermes trickster. All you got to do is read Circe to know Mercury, Hermes. And feel like they're so tricked, they don't even know they're tricking themselves while they're tricking everyone else. So that you got to know who's speaking. And a lot of the speakers who are speaking are my clients. So I know their charts, which is why I've said I would never have a session with that person. And I have to tell you, like, it's because I know their charts, okay? And I know my chart, which doesn't have a single domicile lord or planet in exaltation, because I don't need these things. These things are poison, okay? And they're tricksters. So that whole left-hand path and right-hand path, does Jeffrey Dahmer know he was on the left-hand path? No, he is the left-hand path. And I'm going to show you his chart. So, and you could take a screenshot, and anybody who's a criminal like Jason of Archaics, he has to be photographed every year. So I obviously have his birth information too. These are public figures because they have been arrested and have had a lot of notoriety. So we can see that Nessus is conjunct his Venus and his vertex in Taurus, and Venus is Lucifer as a domicile lord. So Nessus is there for rape and murder, okay? Mercury is a domicile lord in Gemini in the house of God, or the high priest, and it is conjunct Lucifer with his sun, all right? And then his Mars is right here in Aries, a domicile lord. Here's his Saturn conjunct Vesta. And what's interesting, it's in a grand trine to his north node in Virgo. So he has a grand trine kite to the midheaven in Cancer, as if he should be very caring and loving, right? And that's exactly what Jeffrey Dahmer said. He loved his victims so much that he kept them like alive in a liminal state, putting weird injections into their brain until he finally couldn't resource his perversions on them anymore. And then he ate their hearts first because he loved them so much. There's a chart of a master of the realm on the left-hand path. He let Lucifer possess him. So do you understand? Now, all of those people who are on the left-hand path are going, oh, you don't understand, Lalita. Yeah, I do. Yes, I do. Because I interact with people on these various paths every day. So don't be like, oh, you don't understand. Yes, I do. And I understand the nature of these planets very well, because when I was studying as a shaman astrologer, I called them in, okay? And when Lucifer came in, she basically said in perfect poetry, like a song with perfect meter, It was unbelievable, and it went on for hours. That the incest is sacred, the rape is sacred, the murder is sacred, the cannibalism is sacred. Because again, Venus, which people think is the divine feminine, I'm like, well, she ain't my divine feminine. No way. But there is an astrologer out there who really claims that Venus is the divine feminine. Venus is Lucifer, okay? And this is a major predatory trickster who is trying to tell you that this is all okay because this is the primal fire of God experiencing herself. Well, I've been experiencing this for quite some time. I was a teenager also listening to my friends' horror and my own, and I just thought that this horror was what went on here. And I'm going, wow, you know what? How much does God really need to know this horror? Or are we just doing this because the Nag Hammadi text says, get out of here? And I don't need Lucifer's rebellious sparks stolen from Jupiter and Uranus to get out of here. I am already out of here. And that's how I am. I mean, I am Starfire. I don't need them at all. And neither do you. That's what I have been trying to say in all my videos. And the other thing that I want you to know is I'm going to be traveling again. And so I won't be taking any sessions until after mid-March. So don't even try to contact me. And all the people who are like, I can't find this video. I can't, do you think I'm just going to stop my day and find you a freaking video? I have all the playlists. Watch them. They're all the videos are in playlists. And if they're not on YouTube, they're on Vimeo. And that's your problem, not mine. And do you see how I am? That super passionate sovereignty. I just am not going to take the bullshit. I am not a victim either. You know what? I am absolutely triumphant because I have figured this stuff out. And to me, if you want to keep messing around with everyone who's doing their digital baloney online, go ahead, go down the left-hand path. Please have sex with Pluto. Would ya? And that's okay. As an astrologer, I'm going don't externalize it, internalize it. If you got to really get to know Pluto. But I've actually had a client just this morning tell me that some primetime speaker out there said that she is the lover, quote, of Pluto. I don't know what to say about that, folks. That is the tantric or the left-hand path. But to me, I mean, Nessus just went over my North Node. Was I the lover of Nessus? This is crazy. This left-hand path stuff is absolutely crazy. And that somehow God needs more experience here. So just allow this crap to go on. So what I have to say to my astrology students is that you should know each of these intimately by not letting them possess you ever, but by really noticing the condition in the chart. So if you have Saturn in a good condition, that means that this super malefic, horrible planet can bring about malefic results for you. Just like Jeffrey Dahmer has all these super well-conditioned planets doing great in his chart with a midheaven in Cancer because he cares so much that he had to eat them. Do you understand? So this is what this system is. And in the Nag Hammadi text, it says you get out of here. Again, you don't need Lucifer's rebel spark. All you got to know is what's going on here, people. Jeez, do you not know what's going on here? Are you watching the football game of the Superb Owl with a halftime show and then sharing videos about that? That's the digital bog. It makes me crazy. And why? Why would you need to share that? Are you initiating yourself as a witch of the Super Bowl game? Why would you watch that? So to me, the digital is the bog, all right? And the bog group was excellent. We did a fabulous job of conversation. And then I left the group, which people in the group are like, Alita, you left the group. Oh, of course I did. I don't stick around anywhere. I exit fast. You know, this is the thing, people, is if you're like hanging around, somehow trying to figure it out, saying the same dumb junk that's always been said about the left-hand path and the right-hand path, you're going to be here forever in that rabbit hole, in that digital bog. So that's how I am. I'm super fast. I'm fire. I don't need anybody's spark. All right? So let's look at this other guy. I'm not going to review this book right now, okay? But Claude read this book. We find these free books on the side of the road here in New Hampshire. And I looked this guy up because Claude was really, really freaked out about this guy who did the Trailside Murders. His name is David Carpenter. He was born May 6th of 1930 in San Francisco. He has Mars in Aries as a domicile lord, Mercury in Gemini as a domicile lord, so he's a total liar, absolute trickster, con artist beyond belief. Then he has a moon in Virgo conjunct Neptune, a sun in Taurus, the North Node in Taurus conjunct Lucifer, Venus in Gemini, Jupiter in Gemini, and Saturn as a domicile lord in Capricorn. So here's this guy, David Carpenter. Again, Lucifer conjunct the North Node. That's his destiny. And he fakes so many things that he stays out of jail for a long time, to the point where they never even did the, killing of him in jail. So he's not quite as exalted as Jeffrey Dahmer. Poor guy. I mean, he didn't get murdered in jail and be that holy sacrifice to Lucifer. Like, geez, people. Anyways, David Carpenter, if you study him, he's still alive, he's still in prison, and he would pretend to stutter so that people felt sorry for him. And yet, when he was raping people, he didn't stutter at all. So the victims who were raped were like, well, no, he wasn't stuttering. It can't be that guy. That's how many planets in Gemini, with Mercury in Gemini, make him a liar, a first-class liar. And Hermes is Mercury. So anybody who's doing Hermes and Venus is Lucifer, total trickster, addictive, seductive, liars. And they sound so sweet. They might stutter a little bit. I mean, did you look at Jeffrey Dahmer? He's a total dweeb. And so is that guy, David Carpenter. Absolute dweebs on the left-hand path. And is that in my opinion? Yeah. Do I have strong opinions? Yeah. Fucking back up, eh? So that's how I am. And this guy who did these murders, he also was so tricky with that many planets in Gemini that he bought different pairs of sneakers in different sizes and planted them on the trail where he was raping and murdering women, to be like, he's not the same man. He wore different sneakers to trick these people so that his shoe size was different, so he couldn't possibly be the same rapist. That's Mercury in Gemini. And if you have Mercury in Gemini, you better have a good look at yourself, because you've been tricked many times. You're tricking other people, and it's nothing but a trick. So pay attention to that. All right, so have I covered everything? People did have some questions for me. How to navigate this is to just be like, this has been going on for thousands of years. And Jeffrey Dahmer, maybe he was transfigured because after I did, like Enoch, right, he was the lesser Yahweh, and then he became Metatron, and he got transfigured for his service to a god. And that is what goes on here. Be careful with these paths. I'm not on any of these paths. I'm in the Johnny Cash path of this, okay? I'm on the Johnny Cash path, yeah. So he's neither the left or the right, even though he always sang all those religious songs, and then he sang all those prison songs. So, I mean, I love Johnny Cash. He was great. I know his chart. So where am I going with this? I want to conclude for you somehow. You don't have to read all these books. You have to look inside of you. And you have to really study. Is it possible that God needs some more suffering here so that she can understand and experience herself in every possible way. Or is that you just doing that at this point? That's really what it is. It's like a trauma bond. It's like Stockholm syndrome, where you've got to suffer some more and get on the left-hand path and let this God possess you. No, you don't. But you as astrologers do need to look at this, that some of the most horrifying murderers don't get caught, and they have these planets as domicile lords, and they're raping entire nations. Because they know how not to get caught, and they know what this game is here. And they have fabulous planets. I've said that before. When you see planets in excellent condition, that person is usually part of the prison establishment. So, yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer, when we did his video with the Galactic Shaman Astrologers and the 8th House, I got a lot of calls from psychopaths. I had a lot of people, actually one person in particular that I'm going to explain to you was in an institution, was court ordered to be in an institution. And when she talked to me, she said that Jeffrey Dahmer was her guide, that basically he came to her so often that she had to look up online to see if he was dead because he was so visceral and he was so real. And after that, I've been thinking all those years since the Galactic Shaman Astrologers and I got together on that and did his chart. And I had a whole bunch of sessions with psychopaths, and I could see their chart. It was amazing. And I did their mother's chart. And I was like, is Jeffrey Dahmer some kind of demigod here? Like, how is it that he is coming as a guide to these people who are psychopaths? Unless he really did get transfigured after he was murdered in prison. Wow. That should tell you about how you become a god here and why you want to get out right there. All right. So I think I've covered it. The house of, I was going to say the house of shame, but the house of flame and shadow. But I feel like this, folks, go back to the Russian roulette of reincarnation. What's going on here with all this rape, murder, cannibalism stuff is not making us evolve. It is not giving God experience. Really, this is a demiurge construct and it needs to be shut down. And if it's not shut down, we should at least close it with these horrible interstellar parasites in it. And they don't want that to happen. So they're trying to convince you to get on their left-hand path, that they will take over your AI body for you. Of course they will. Okay? So, bye-bye for now. See you in mid-March.